It is not about, you have to get the logical mind offline.
Mm-hmm.
It is a feeling first and a receptivity second. So what I mean by that is that we think that once we have the money, then we can feel safe. It's backwards. It is once you feel safe, then the money can land. And the thing is that our internal, if you were like, this is just the way that it's always been, and this is, easy for you to say, because easy for me to say, I was in a debt. I was about to file for bankruptcy, right? I turned my shit around because I went inward. And so again, you got to take the logical mind offline because none of it makes logical sense, right? So when you're saying, I've got food to put on the table, I've got these bills to pay, you're existing in the 3D.
Welcome to Hopeful and Wholesome, the show where ambitious women come home to their bodies. I'm your host, Hope Pedraza, and I'm a functional practitioner, human design guide, and expert on all things energy, and your partner in decoding the language of your body. This is your space to reconnect with your body's wisdom, reclaim your energy, and rise into alignment in your health, your business, and your life. Because thriving isn't about pushing harder, it's about learning to listen deeper. So let's dive in, because your next breakthrough starts right now. Hey y'all, welcome back to Hopeful and Wholesome. I have on the show this week my friend Kiki Rae, and she is a trauma-informed wealth embodiment mentor, redefining wealth consciousness for visionary 6- and 7-figure entrepreneurs by awakening the wildly wealthy woman within. An international best-selling author, manifestation expert, Kundalini practitioner, founder of the Quantum Breath Academy, Kiki fuses neurosomatic rewiring with energetic embodiment to help you heal your wealth wounds so you can create, hold, and multiply money without sabotaging your success. Her work goes beyond financial literacy. She's here for your financial liberation, so money is never again the reason you have to say no to your desires. And I absolutely love Kiki. We've done some interviews together before, and she was on my podcast, my little audio summit that I did last year. And oh my gosh, I love talking to her so much. We're diving into wealth frequency and what that means, what it is, the importance of redefining money. We're talking about why mindset alone doesn't fix the money problems and the money beliefs. And we're just talking all about the nervous system and the body's role in money and your relationship with money. And I love talking to Kiki about money because she has such a different perspective and such a unique take on money and wealth as a part of embodiment and not just like as a part of our everyday existence. So I love this conversation so much. I really think it's going to shift a lot of the things that you believe about money, your relationship with money. So let's jump in. I'm here with Kiki. I'm so excited to chat with you, Kiki. Thanks for hanging out with us today.
Thank you for bringing me in to have this conversation. I'm super excited.
Me too. And it's been a while since we did our interview for the podcast or the secret podcast.
The audio.
Last year. Or the audio summit. So I just had to bring you on. And I love all your stuff. I mean, I follow you on social media and I've done some of your little money programs and stuff. So I just love the work you do. And so I got to get my girl Kiki on here before the end of the year. So I'm so pumped. I just love talking with you.
I love you. I love your energy. It's an honor to be here, honestly.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I love the way you teach money and the way you teach somatics and like fuse all of these things together. And so I would love for you to start, because I also love your story, because your story ties into everything that you do, which I mean, I guess we all do, right? But I would love for you to share your story and how you took this path to teach kind of like the energetics and somatics around money.
Yeah, it was a really big fear of mine to be like, I'm going to be an expert in money, because if you speak to anyone in my family, I have never been anywhere close to a financial expert. Until a couple years ago, didn't even have savings or investments or anything like that. Now, that's the way in which we tangibly think about money. But what I realized during my journey, so I will try to keep this as succinct as possible, but I started entrepreneurship in like 2016. I started my own business in 2018 and very quickly saw success. It took me 2 years to build a 6-figure business. I matched my corporate income my first year in business. Like I did quite well for myself in the beginning. And then, come 2021, I had my first $20,000 month, hit this upper limit. I was stoked. I was just like, I had my first like $7,000 day in business and all of this stuff. And that was when the world started kind of projecting things back to me through some of the closest people in my life. So my best friend at the time told me, childhood friend was like, you've changed, you're different. Do you know how long it would take me? Like all of her own shit, which I could not see at the time. I was like, this doesn't feel good. Then I welcomed in a partnership that I was very clearly 2.5 years later, seeing that all of my worthiness wounds were really being activated within that. And just, if I can try a little bit harder to be the better person and, let me fix him, right? How many of you been through that story a million times? Let me just be the martyr. Because of course, he's a good human. I saw the potential in him and I wanted to bring that out of him. But just ladies, when a man tells you who he is, believe him. So there was all of that. And then, I had an ex-partner who had remained a really good friend of mine and he exited my life. And this was all in the period of 6 months. And so all of this stuff started coming up. And in that partnership I was in, I was so excited and so lit up about the work that I was doing. And my interpretation is that, my success was triggering to my partner. And so there would be these just little quips of, well, you're not a real author because you publish through Amazon as opposed to a real publishing house, all of these just little things, and always said playfully and jokingly until one day, 2 years later, it wasn't so jokingly. And I was like, I knew it. You had never said it, but I knew it. And I denied my body. And in that 2.5 years, of course, I take responsibility for my side of the street as well, because I just wanted to be loved. And so it was this very back and forth, just he is a good human. I am a good human. Together, we did not make good humans, right? And it was this journey of, as I was going through this process, trying so hard to be loved and accepted. And, with the other things that were happening with my best friend leaving, it was, money means pain. Money means I shouldn't get too big. I shouldn't be too successful. So in that, I shrank. I shrank to be loved. I shrank to be accepted. And very quickly, within an 8-month period, my $20,000 month turned into consistent $2,000 months. And I just squandered away my business. And that was a very hard, very grueling lesson about myself, about wealth. And I will never forget, because I was very on the verge of, I went to a debt insolvency company because I had been financially free. And then of course I got myself right back to where I was when I started, $60,000 in the hole. And I had so much visceral fear in my body of, I'm never going to be successful. My desires aren't actually meant for me. I'm going to be broke. I'm going to be homeless. When I thought about the future, I thought, what would happen if my mom wasn't here to support me? At the age of 36, I moved back in with my mom. I got a job working in the service industry to create this safety in my body and this regulation so that I was no longer just desperately grasping at straws in my business. And I gave it this last ditch effort to just, okay, if I show up for 90 days, and I had this conversation with my mentor, I apologize, I'm kind of jumping all over the place, but I had this one last conversation, and she just looked at me and she goes, Kiki, what do you want? And I will never forget where I was and what I said. I just threw my hands up in the air and I said, I just want to be wildly wealthy. And then I was like, oh shoot, like that's a big thing. And that was kind of what started the journey of wealth embodiment. And I said, okay, well, the wildly wealthy woman, that kind of sounds sexy. But who am I? I'm making $2,000-$3,000 a month in my business right now. Like I can't do that. And so rather than starting a business from a space of this is already where I'm at, it was starting my business with my current following and saying, let's go on a journey together. And I want to share that piece specifically as a permission slip that you don't need to have it all figured out. I have put one foot in front of the other and I committed day in, day out. And it was really this mission that became so much bigger than just myself. And for so long in my business, I was in this space where I made it all about me. And I think as business owners, we have to get like, we are not anyone without the people who pay us. And so it's really this reconnecting to my mission. And my mission was helping women heal their wealth wounds so that they wouldn't have to walk my story again, so that they wouldn't have to stay in a place or a relationship or a job or a situation that did not serve them solely because money was the only thing keeping them from leaving. So that's where I'm at.
Such a good story. Thank you for sharing that. And there's so many lessons in there. And I mean, that is such a great testament to just choosing to just not stay where you are. Like I'm making the choice now that I'm not going to stay where I am. And I love everything about your story. There's a lot out there. When we talk about money, there's some different ways we can look at it, right? We hear a lot of things about, money mindset and your money mindset and all this stuff about mindset. But I know that you are not really about the money mindset thing. Like there's deeper things at play. Yeah. So I would love for you to riff on that for a second and tell us why the whole money mindset thing probably isn't working for you. And
yeah. Well, first of all, when I decided to be the wildly wealthy woman, I had to really get into the embodiment of her. And how do you go about doing that when you feel like a complete failure at life in your late 30s? You are living at home with your mom, like how? And I had to come back to basics. I really actually took myself back to who was I when I started my business? Who was I when I created my first 6 figures? And I really got out of the logic of things and I got into the energy of it. And energy does not make rational, logical, reasonable sense. It is truly full trust, faith, surrender into something that you cannot see. But I had the proof that when I was that person, I created this magic in my life. And so let's play with that again. And it really was a process of playing pretend. And so I had to remember that wealth has actually very little to do with money. And so that was the first piece. It's not just a mindset. It is an energy. It is a frequency. And if you are in a place where you think, well, I can't be wealthy until I have money, you're doing it all wrong. I chose the energy of wealth day in and day out until it had no choice but to show up on my doorstep. And I promise you, the more that I did it, the sooner the money came, the faster my timeline sped up. And again, for those of you who are in this like logical, like, what is she talking about? Because money is wealth. It's really not. If you are someone who has a roof over your head, you are wealthy. If you have food in your fridge, you are wealthy. If you have a car to drive or access to public transportation or a device that you are listening to this on, you are wealthy. And I need you to take money out of the equation to feel that, because it is truly, wealth is truly a felt sense, and it goes so much deeper than just money alone. And if you can walk down the street and you're in your body and you're like, I've got 2 legs that are carrying me and a heart that is beating and just all of these different expressions, that is wealth. That is overflow. And we have been conditioned to believe, quite intentionally, that money is the only expression of wealth, and that is simply not true. And so when I started doing this work, obviously I had to do it on myself first and be the embodiment and be the proof that the work worked. I came back to, first and foremost, like I have this approach in my methodology called the frequency first approach, which is really disconnecting, separating money from wealth and feeling wealthy every single day, regardless of what my external circumstance says. And that is truly the secret. And then from there, creating the safety in the body to let go of that. Like when we're constantly in survival, when we're constantly in this fight or flight energy, it contracts our body. And when we're in a state of contraction, we're not actually open to the blessings, to the abundance that is available to us, that wants to make its way to us. We're closed off from that. So how do we create safety in the body? We release, we regulate the nervous system, which is, again, taking it deeper than just your mindset. And from there, having that safety is what actually allows us to access the mind of like, okay, well, now I feel safe enough to like dream a little bigger, come back to like, no, those desires are actually within me for a reason. And like they were planted there. There's a reason why they're there. I am here to like lead this mission, and it feels really big and it feels really scary. But because I now feel safe in my body, it feels safe to dream my dreams again.
Hey, y'all, we'll get right back to the episode. But first, let me ask you this. You've built a vision that others admire, and you've built something that you're really proud of. But behind the scenes, your body feels like it's lagging behind. It just can't quite catch up to your brilliance and your mission that you have. That late night second wind, the foggy mornings, the hormone shifts, the endless push and forcing. You can't strategize your way out of that. And you already know you don't need more supplements. You don't need another supplement stack. You also don't need another side hustle disguised as self-care, because nobody wants to have their health as a side hustle. This is about recalibrating your entire ecosystem. And that's why I created the Quantum Reset, a premium 3-month high-touch healing experience for visionary women who are ready to feel as powerful in their bodies as they do in their business. Inside, we decode your nervous system, your minerals, your hormones. We read your labs like the sacred text that it is, so we have actual answers. And then we pair that with deep energetic recalibration, subconscious release. We use gene keys, we use human design, and true embodied healing. This isn't about fixing burnout, because that's not what we're doing here. This is about becoming the woman whose body is powerful, whose body is completely electric, whose energy, clarity, radiance finally matches the size of her mission. If you know your success isn't meant to cost you your vitality, and you're ready for a science-backed, spirit-led reset, then the Quantum Reset is your invitation. So check the link in the show notes or send me a message on Instagram, and let's bring your body back online with your brilliance. Now, let's get back to the show.
And we talk a lot about safety in the body on the show in different ways, because I mean, that's part of the work I do with with helping women's health. Our body has to feel safe to heal. So it all ties together. But I love that piece that you just said, because when your body doesn't feel safe, it doesn't feel safe to dream. Or we put like parameters around what we're allowed to dream, or there's like shame or guilt, around it. Like, oh no. So I love that goes together so well. So what would you say to someone listening? I'd love to play devil's advocate here. Yes. What would you say to someone listening who is like, someone's saying that wealth isn't about the money, it's only what rich people say, like it's easy for you to say if, I got to put food on the table, I got rent to pay, blah, blah, blah. Like, and I know, I mean, a lot of people have been there that now are wealthy and financially and all of that. So, I mean, we see that it's possible, but in terms of this embodiment piece you're talking about, like, yes, we can be grateful for everything every day. How do we overcome that piece, that piece that keeps trolling in the back of our mind?
So first of all, as someone who had it all, lost it all, got it all back and then some, it is not about, you have to get the logical mind offline. It is a feeling first and a receptivity second. So what I mean by that is that we think that once we have the money, then we can feel safe. It's backwards. It is once you feel safe, then the money can land. And the thing is that our internal, if you're like, this is just the way that it's always been, and this is, easy for you to say, because easy for me to say, I was in a debt. I was about to file for bankruptcy, right? I turned my shit around because I went inward. And so again, you got to take the logical mind offline because none of it makes logical sense, right? So when you're saying, I've got food to put on the table, I've got these bills to pay, you're existing in the 3D. And what you need to do is just like play a game, right? The pressure that you're putting on, because money is so emotionally charged because it's linked to our survival. I hear you. I have been you. I get it. It's when we try to elevate that frequency that creates that spaciousness for things to land. So that none of that can happen if you are living the 3D reality internally of lack, of scarcity, of not enoughness. You have to, again, take money off the table and say, okay, where am I, no matter where you're at? If you are struggling to pay your bills, if you can't put food on the table, if you are at a place where the electricity is getting shut off, you have your body. Can you tune into your breath and say, I might not have anything, but I've got my breath. I have my body keeping me alive, and just start riffing on what you have, what is there, what is in front of you. That yes, okay, we say the word gratitude, but really at the end of the day, it's what you currently have, the safety that is there, even if it is something so minimal. Do you have a bed that you're laying in at night? Do you have clothes that are on your back, even if it's just, 2 or 3 outfits you're circulating between? Do you have, I know everyone that's listening to this is wealthy enough that they have something that they are consuming this information with, right? That's wealth. And so no matter what, I think about the rags to riches stories, it can quite literally go the opposite way too, where you have the riches that turn into rags. And it's all about what shifts, right? You have the information, you've got the tools. So what shifts? It's not usually what's happening on the outside. It's what is happening on the inside. And internally is what is dictating your external. And so you have to just listen to this kooky girl that's here telling you, what if I just played a game for 30 days? If I told you that you were to just take the time to land within you and ask yourself, how can I be the wealthiest version of myself today? By the way, this is exactly what I did to change my circumstance. So I'm telling you it works. I have tons of my clients doing this as well. If you could play this game, I prescribe 90 days, but if you were really a non-believer, if I told you 30 days has the opportunity to change your life, if you were to just ask the simple question, how can I find wealth in my reality today? How can I be the expression from a felt sense of the wealthiest version of me today? Not by going out and buying the thing. It's about feeling it internally. Can you notice the beauty of the wealth of the abundance all around you, from the leaves on the trees to the blades of grass to the air that you breathe to the infinite grains of sand on the beach and the drops of water that collectively make the ocean? It's all wealth. You just need to rethink the way and decondition your programming around the way you've been taught to think about it.
That's so good. And I think sometimes we do think that that's what the embodiment piece means, when you're just, embody the wealthy person you desire to be. And it's well, we think, it means I have to go buy something or treat myself to something a quote unquote wealthy person would do. But that's not even what we're talking about here. It's
not even
frequency,
close.
The feeling first. Yeah. I love
frequency first, strategy second.
Yeah.
It's not about what you do. It's about who you are being when you are doing it.
Yeah.
Because if you show up and you're like, I've got to go to work again today. I've got to make this money. I'm scraping by. Like, you're showing up in this decrepit energy versus I have a job. Not everyone can say that. I get to show up to put food on my table and exchange currently time for, hours or time for money, all of that stuff. Like, that might not be where you currently desire to be, but it is a vehicle to get you to where you want to go. And so it's all about just changing the energy and the frequency in which you show up to do the things. And that alone you would be amazed at what starts happening in your external reality when you start showing up differently from the inside out.
Yeah. I love the concept that you were saying of like pretending, and that you did, I think it was last year, maybe was it this year?
Play pretend.
And I did that one with you, and I thought that was so clever and such a good way to look at it, because it is like, if you could just, it's like you're tricking yourself into it, right? Can we just play a game and like make it a game and make it like,
But from a scientific standpoint and from a neuro-linguistic programming standpoint, from your subconscious mind, which is the 95% operator of your brain, and here we are trying to do the conscious things, which is the 5% of our brain, efforting, trying to control, trying to play God with 5% of our brain capacity. Again, logical. If we could shift and start to activate our imagination, because scientifically it has been proven that your neural pathways activate the same way between your lived experience and what you are pretending. So why not pretend? I promise you, that was one of the biggest game changers, was taking even just 1 minute every single day. And I know every single one of you has 1 minute. But the thing is, not enough of you believe in the potentiality of what that 1 minute could do for you. Because you've got all the time in the world to look at your Instagram and scroll and do all of these things. It's a question of like, how bad do you actually want to change your life? How bad do you actually want to shift your external reality? And I say this with so much love and compassion, because I was there. I literally said, if I do this for 90 days and nothing shifts, then I can go. Then I can say I've given it a solid 3 months. And I promise you, 3 days into this experiment, things started shifting for me. 3 days. I was like, all right, well, the universe is showing up for me. So let's ride this momentum and keep playing pretend. And it's funny, I'll tell you, like, very full transparency, I've gotten to this place where I've stalled out a little bit in my business. By the way, like from 2023, when I decided to be the embodiment of the wildly wealthy woman, it was August of 2023. Last year, from January to December, I had my best ever year in business. August to December of 2023 into 2024 to this year of 2025. Best year ever in business. Time is still collapsing. I have already hit the 6-figure mark at the beginning of, it was late July, early August. So time is collapsing upon itself. And I noticed within the past couple of weeks, I was like, oh, things are stalling out a bit, right? And so I'm sitting here and I'm like, what am I not doing? I'm still the identity of a 6-figure, multi-6-figure earner. The momentum ain't momentuming right now because I've lost that playfulness piece. I've stopped envisioning the next level. I've stopped activating that 95% of my brain into that next level. So of course sales are slow. Of course the momentum slowed down a bit. And so it's like this ever evolving process, but I stopped playing pretend. And I'm like, there it is. So you better believe that I am going back to my own medicine and my own work to make sure that my subconscious is primed to look for the opportunities and the things, because that is what you are. If you are saying money's hard to make, I've got bills to pay, I've got this, I can't put food on the table, your subconscious is like, bet, I'm going to find more of that to confirm what you believe. And so I'm like, okay, well, we got to get believing that this is not the top of the ceiling, and that this is just the first level, and we've got to bust through to the top of the tower, which is far beyond the current level that we're playing at. So visualizing that next step.
Yeah, it's so good.
Always.
For the logical minded person, you've mentioned this a couple of times of like, putting the logic aside. What do you have any, I don't know the word, if it's like tricks or hacks or like, what are some ways that you help people to like really get out of the logical mind, like turn it off?
I created a process that's about 10 minutes long. It involves a little bit of breath work to wake up the body, to activate the energy within the body. And then it's a gratitude practice, if you will, but I call it a soul activation practice. So what that is your ability to the body, awaken the energy with the breath work. You get into the felt sense of the gratitude for what you have, and then we future trip you into what you are creating. And the more that you anchor this in and you feel into it, again, you're activating those neural pathways so that your subconscious starts becoming this goal-seeking missile rather than your current reality seeking missile of like, let's create more of the same. No, it starts going to work to be like, we're creating this vision. And so that's something that I was doing every single day to get me to where I wanted to go. And it proved to be correct. Kundalini has also been a really powerful tool in my life. I'm on a 365-day Kundalini journey right now to just really keep that energy flowing open, and nourishing my vessel. So it's a lot of like hippy dippy shit, if you will, but in like the non-logical sense, it's the stuff that works. Even if you aren't a good visualizer, right? Even if you're like, that's not for me, I can't even see. It's not just about what you see. It's about activating the senses of what you hear, what you feel. And if one of those submodalities isn't strong, you have the other ones to be able to bring on board.
Yeah. Those are so good. And we can call it hippy dippy if we want, but the fact is there's a lot of science to back up the things that you're doing. So
correct.
We can call it all that. But I think, and I know you're familiar with Dr. Joe Dispenza, but I always bring him up because I'm like, this man is putting all the science to everything that we're talking about, really. So
he is one of my favorites.
Yeah, same. So, I feel like people kind of poo-poo some of it. And I'm like, well, you can't poo-poo when there's actual evidence and there's science to back it up. So just saying.
Exactly.
Just saying. Okay, so for those listening, so what do you think? Actually, I want to ask you this. What do you think are some of, and this is probably, you could go down a ton of rabbit holes here, but just maybe generally speaking, what are some of the main or biggest reasons why women hit the money plateau? What do you find?
It is our saviordom, our martyrdom. It is our conditioning within society. We are not meant to be the big, women are powerful, and we have been like, you look at our conditioning from such a young age is that this is for girls and this is for boys, and boys are supposed to do this and girls are supposed to do this. Like, the conditioning runs deep and it is lifelong. And so don't be too big, don't be too successful, right? That I am living proof of what happens when you look at the pay gap, you look at all of these things within society. And it's only been 50 years that women, maybe 51 years now, that women have been able to have a credit card in their name. It is generational. It is ancestral that we are not to outdo the men. And so there is unsafety in that. If, like, for me and what I went through, it was, well, I'm too much. I'm going to get kicked out of the tribe, right? Like, there is so much about women and their success and their ownership of it. And that is literally why I do this work, to help you release your wealth wounds so that you don't do what I did.
That's so good. I had this call a while back with an intuitive, and she that was one of the things she found was like this is just like this generational thing on, I want to say it was like on the mom side. But anyway, it was, I was asking her some questions, and the whole thing that came up for her was this kind of generational pattern of the only way the women felt safe was to be provided for. Like there wasn't safety in providing for themselves. And that was the only safe way to exist, was if somebody else was providing for them. And it was kind of this like learned sense of helplessness and powerlessness that like runs generationally. And I was just mind blown when it's coming up, because I'm like, it makes so much sense. And I know that's in, so like you said, I would dare say that's probably in most of our lineages, like that it's just how women were, just how things went. But I think that's such a powerful piece to recognize. And I love all the tools that you use, because I think somebody I was listening to the other day was talking about like the best connection between the body and the mind is the breath. I think that's the most powerful way to really get in touch with all of these parts. Is I'm a huge fan of breath work. So I think that's such a great way to like release these pieces and to start to move past and rewire, reprogram, like all of that. Because it runs deep. Like you said, it runs
so deep.
The other thing I heard, I thought this was so funny because I never thought of this. This gal I was listening to talking about money, and she was saying, when I first started out, my goal was like, I'm going to retire my husband. And she's like, I had this mentor ask me like, why is that why you want to make money? Does that light you up? Does it make you excited? And she's like, well, no. And she was like, how? That's always, you hear that all the time. We still hear that. I feel like we don't hear it quite as much, but there's a long time where that was a big thing.
It was a big network marketing thing.
Yes. And so she's like, so she said, I had this realization, here it is, the patriarchy striking again, where it's like, oh, they've worked so hard. Like, let's help them out. Like, there's like that, it's that energy around it where it's like, we think it's this noble thing. And it's like, no, it's still the patriarchy showing up and how women are what they're supposed to do with their money.
1000%. And I think just to like add on top of that, men, like I am all for a traditional, like, I want a soft life. I'm just going to be so real. I want a soft life. I want to make my own money, but I also have a desire to be provided for. And that is traditionally the divine masculine. Does that mean just in money? No. After my last relationship, I deeply desire to be provided for emotionally.
Yes. That's the thing. We think it's just money. This is not just about money. Like, come on.
No, but I want to be, I do believe in that traditional feminine, masculine embodiment, because looking at past relationships I've been in, I had a really beautiful dynamic in one of my previous relationships where, he did lead and maybe not lead, but protected and provided and all of these things. And I was able to soften into my feminine. He was so supportive of everything that I did and just like wholeheartedly believed in me, right? Because I believed in myself and therefore, and it was this really beautiful dynamic, but never did I say, well, I'm just going to let him make all of the money, right? That was actually not something that I desired, because I have seen my mother stay in a marriage that sucked the life out of her, literally, and she didn't feel safe to leave.
Right.
And that was a big reason for the intentionality behind this too. Like I said at the beginning, I want to empower women to heal their wealth wounds so that they can make money, so that they can start businesses that they love and that they are passionate about, that feel good to them and make the money, whatever wildly wealthy looks like to you. I want you to own that and have that safety net of your own so that you don't have to stay in anything that does not serve you. Whatever that looks like.
Yeah.
Job, marriage.
Yeah.
Whatever.
So good. I love this. I love talking about this with you. There's just so much here for us to take away.
Girl, we can do a part 2.
I know, for sure. We're probably going to have to. I mean, it's just so much. There's just so much here. I do have one more question that I want to ask you that I like to ask everybody as we wrap up. But before I do that, can you let everybody know where they can learn more about you and follow along and do all? Kiki has so many fun courses and things she does. So share all the things.
I love you. So I am the Wildly Wealthy Woman on Instagram, but at Wildly Wealthy Woman, So Instagram is my favorite place to hang out. You can find me there. I have a free Facebook community where I do trainings, I do card pulls, I have guest experts come in to talk about different ways that wealth in all senses of the term are applicable to you. I have business, I have health, I have all of the things. So that is facebook.com/groups/WWW movement, but I'll give you all of the links to be able to share.
Yeah, perfect. Of course, all that is in the show notes. Y'all can go check that out and join the group and follow along with Kiki. And the last question I want to ask you, what do you think is the most important thing you can do to live with purpose?
Honor your intuition. Whatever is within your soul, it might feel scary. It might feel too big, too much, but truly living with purpose is honoring the gifts and the gems that have intentionally been placed within you. And please follow that, because following what your soul is yearning for is not only what gives you purpose, but it also gives you so much happiness. It's also very important.
That is such a good answer. Thank you, Kiki. This was so good. And I just love talking to you. So thank you for sharing all your wisdom and just being you.
Love you.
Yeah, love you.
And I'm so excited to connect with your community.
Yes, same. Thank you so much.
Mwah.
Okay.